You're listening to TruthDare with your host, Tuan Lam. Trust your truth. We dare you.
Hey, Truth Tribers. Welcome to TruthDare. I love nothing more than talking to people who have found their truth, their true calling, and they're using it not only to help themselves, but to serve others. And we're daring you to find your truth. Hey everybody, welcome to TruthDare. I'm a little raspy because I just got back from the 2-week flu, boo. But anyway, I'm back and rolling. I'm going to tell you the truth here. I love doing this podcast because, of course, I want to inspire you to know that you're not alone in your journey and that there's hope. But really, it's kind of self-serving because not only do I have fun, but it's like a therapy session for me. And that's what a lot of people that listen in say too. And in this episode in particular, I feel like I opened up the most and learned the most about myself. So in this episode, I want to introduce you to Sandi Stuart, and she's one of the first female sales executives in the men's clothing business. She started her career as an entrepreneur, as an outsider, had no connections, working her way up the ladder to become the executive vice president of Bugle Boy Industries. She's known for helping the company prosper from zero to $250 million annually. Her career at the apparel behemoth spanned more than 25 years. She then became the executive VP of another apparel leader, the Cherokee Group. She would then eventually become the co-founder of Agency Licensing, focusing on what she calls, quote, providing and sharing practical consciousness for women entrepreneurs. Sandi is a graduate at the Institute of Integrative Psychotherapy in Los Angeles and teaches at the Institute in Italy as well. She currently works with clients as a coach, exploring the delicate relationship between our bodies and emotions. I first heard about Sandi when interviewing her husband, Hollywood producer, author, and podcaster of Cutting Edge Consciousness, Barnett Bain, for my second interview of TruthDare. I was really touched deeply by the way he spoke about his wife and how she affected his career and spiritual life. Intrigued by her professional background and how she balances her spiritual life in a demanding career as an executive in the fashion world, I quickly Googled her and found an interview where Barnett interviewed her on his podcast. I love that she was so raw and honest and didn't take any BS. And get this, she actually stopped and called him out, him and his co-host out, because they were being too hosty and she didn't feel like their energy was real. So she put the stop button and rewound and they started over. In this podcast, Sandi opens up about what she calls the, quote, theme or broken record that plays out in her life. She believes that each and every one of us have a theme that plays again and again like a broken record when we abandon ourselves, and how it shaped her life, both good and bad, and how to delve deeper and recognize the theme that makes and shakes up your story. We also talk about how you really know when you aren't paying attention to your truth, and how to fine-tune that intuition. There's no doubt that this was like a therapy session for me and got me thinking about why I do what I do, especially when I'm at my low point. Here's to digging deeper into the true you. I was so excited to chat with you because you are what I call I think you should teach a master's or a doctorate in BSD, which I call bullshit detecting. And my closest friends are great BSDs. And I'd love to just, even before we chat about Barnett or whatever, I'm so interested in you and what does that truth feel like to you?
Well, I think when my own crisis that we were just talking about, my health crisis, and when I discovered IBP and I started breathing and getting in my body and being present, I couldn't tolerate being with people that weren't present. I couldn't tolerate it. It was like it threw me. It was almost like I was standing on a wobbly floor. It was so uncomfortable. Now, since then, I've learned about boundaries and I've learned how to create a boundary for myself where I can still connect, but not go out further than my own field so that I don't get
your energy field. Yeah.
Yeah. So that I don't get, disassembled. But when I finally realized that I had spent my whole life self-abandoning, because that's what we're taught. And I think we're taught more so as women. Women have a different flavor of self-abandonment than men, but men absolutely have it. When I discovered that and I returned to me, and we all know, you can't be happy, and you can't be happy with anybody till you're happy yourself. You can't love anybody till you love yourself. I knew all those words, but I had no idea I never had a body sense of what that felt like.
Ooh, I got the chill.
So I got a body sense of what it feels like to really be with me and really not abandon myself when I most need my own support. And when in life do you not most need your own support? Every moment, right?
Yeah, right.
And so truth telling and showing up authentic and really gravitating towards people that were comfortable in their authenticity became more and more attractive to me. And, like anything where you put your attention and intention, the people people that couldn't show up in that way kind of just, our world sort of fell apart, not in any hostile way. It just sort of naturally happened. Being in relationship is a really, really, if nothing else, the best backdrop to practice authenticity.
Yes, I love that you say that, because I think the best gift that you can give people is the gift of you, and like the real, true you. And so I think of whether it's like personal relationships with partners, or a partnership in business, or a friend, or mom or dad or whatever, even though it might not be a good relationship, it's here to teach you something. You learn what it's supposed to teach you. It's going to keep coming back in different ways, shapes and forms and people. And, until you really learn, then you're like, aha, right?
And you know what? I don't know. You definitely learn, but I kind of look at it as though we all have our one person theme. And that's why relationships are so great, because it's so easy to point your finger and go, he did this to me, she did that to me. But by recognizing that I have a theme, and when I'm abandoned myself, when I fragment from my core self, I'm always going to go back to this one theme. So I always have a theme. And when I'm having an argument with Barnett and I fragment, I will always say, don't tell me I'm stupid, because that's a theme that I have, because way back when my father used to talk to me like I was stupid, and I got a message and I know I'm not stupid. And he'll say to me, Sandi, we're having an argument right now. I think a lot of things about you, and I'm really pissed off right now, but stupid is not one of them. But that's my theme. That's what I bring to the table. So now that I know that, when it comes up, it's not that it ever really goes away, but now I can witness it and go, oh, shoot, I just fell into my theme. It's not true.
Yes.
Come back to the here and now. And I think that very clear witnessing of the light and the dark of who we are is a way that really helps us. Like it's okay. It's all legal. We're good enough. It's just not legal, and it's not okay when we deny it and we blame somebody else for what's going on with us.
This part of the conversation gave me the chills and really kind of made me delve deeper into my theme. Sandi here talks about how we all have a theme that shows up. And when you talk to Sandi, or you're listening to the podcast now, there's many things you could say about her, probably, but I would never think stupid. And so her theme is that she was stupid because her dad would talk to her like she was stupid. So it made me think about what my theme was, and my theme was that my mom always told me that you ugly, you so fat. And I'm gonna be real, I have a Chinese mom, and I'm an American kid in, this Asian body. And so we don't really talk about our feelings and, all that woo-woo stuff. But I did, in the last couple years, and I'm almost 40, mention it to her. And I confronted her and said, you know what, Mom, when you said that, it made me feel like I was fat and ugly most of my life. And she was like, well, I told you that because I didn't want you to get big-headed. And so that was the theme, that when I would abandon myself and feel at my lowest, I would feel fat and ugly. And then I look at photos, or I'd see my honor work as a TV reporter or a show host on PBS, and I'm like, well, I'm not fat, and I don't think I'm not ugly. It's like I don't scare children and animals, I don't think. So I want to ask you, what is your theme and what triggers it, and how to say goodbye. And now back to the conversation. Ooh, so gosh, I'm thinking about, I know that with this, you said IBP, that's Integrated Body Psychotherapy, the institute you're talking about, or the study, the process. But, I was just also thinking about like, okay, so how does this relate to me and other people? And it's like all these like people are showing up and feeling their energy. But for me, I was always told I was fat and ugly. Mm-hmm. And there's this 10-year-old boy that lives inside of me that, that visits once in a while. And now I'm able to say, hi, I see you, and okay, bye. Mm-hmm. And my mom and my aunt, told me that. And, I grew up really hating the way I looked. And it wasn't until like I'm 39 now. I did CrossFit at 35 and I wrote a blog. It was actually not even a blog. It was supposed to be for me, and I published it. And it just quickly got over 8,000 shares and reads because it was so real. And what I said was, I remember the first line clearly. It said something along the lines of, I'm 35 and I've hated my body for 35 years. Mm. This body that's beautiful and that works for me, and that has a higher intelligence. And it's because of these things that I was told. Mm-hmm. And I think also, when you said, a lot of women abandon themselves. Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting because for me as a male though, but I'm also have a feminine energy. And I adore my grandmothers and my mom and my sisters. So I'm coming from that space. I feel like so do men, but men, have this other extra challenge, I think, of being able to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And being able to really emote. And I've always been emotive. And it wasn't until college that I told my mom that, no, back up. No, it wasn't college. Gosh, so the years fly by. It was actually just a few years ago when I wrote that blog. I talked to my mom about it, and I said, "Mom, you really messed me up." And she was like, "Well, I never thought that, but I just told you because we didn't. You always got compliments, and everybody thought you were so cute." And the world, the way I see the world is, I get compliments, or I've been on TV and this and that, and I always feel like when people give me compliments about the way I look, I'd rather you say, "Oh, I love your sense of style," versus "I like your shoes." And that's my story. That was my story that I held. I always thought that, oh, you want something from me. You want me to cover a story from you, or you want to get me in bed, or I don't know what the heck. I always feel like I wasn't aware of this thing you're talking about here about, how your story, really becomes a part of your fabric. And even though it's not true, it becomes this thing that you keep on going back to.
Mm-hmm. And, when you talk about that little fat little boy, from my perspective, when you said that, I immediately felt so much compassion and love for this little boy who had a mother who didn't ever get, so probably couldn't give the attunement that you needed at that time. So did what she thought was best, like, well, don't get too big for your britches. That was like a belief about people, or, maybe she didn't want you to eat so much junk food, so it was her way, who knows. But she never got it, so she couldn't give it. But now, because of the work you've done, you can actually now give it to him. Yeah. And the more you love him, rather than just say, I see you, goodbye, it's like, I see you, and wow, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. And I love you so much. And I'm here with you, and I will never abandon with you. I'll be with you even after you die. So you're okay. You're safe with me. That just goes, and then you don't have to walk through life in this here and now today place with him on your back. He can be just having fun and playing and relaxing because he's finally getting what he always wanted. And when you change the past, you change the present. And then you can let the future create the present rather than the past.
Okay, I feel like I'm in therapy now because I'm like, I'm tearing up and like getting all sniffly.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Oh my gosh, that's so unexpected. I'm getting the chills. I love the chills because I feel like it's like the universe, God,
Yeah.
kind of like telling you that's my truth. I feel like,
Yes, you did. That's the truth. That's exactly it. And when you feel the truth, you know it in your body, right?
Yeah,
You just
yeah,
felt it in
totally.
your body.
That's
Your eyes teared up, your
yeah.
nose nothing. That the
I'm shaking.
body doesn't lie. That always
Yeah.
can lead us to the truth. And when you say you're a fat and ugly little kid, that's not the truth. Nothing happens in your body other than you shut down.
Yeah.
But the truth is that you're lovable and that you're beautiful and that he put up with a lot. And he's so strong and brave because you wouldn't be where you are if he wasn't able to sustain that abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you. And I love you. And you're
Oh.
beautiful. And Pudgy is cute. And now I'm grown up and Pudgy isn't so cute. So I'm not Pudgy.
But looking back at the photos too, it's like I never was pudgy or I never was ugly, and so it's weird because in my head still, I catch myself like wanting to, now that I'm trim and, or whatever, I don't know, like I'm not embarrassed to take off my shirt at the beach because that's a big thing for guys,
Yeah.
It's still like, oh, but I still have, and it's just like, what, you're born with everything that you need.
Yeah.
Who you are. And there's, as you learn, you learn in life. I feel like I'm trying to unlearn things, which is kind of, I think sounds counter, intuitive, but I'm trying to unlearn things like, being with a man and being with my partner is not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Or, speaking my truth and being real when something doesn't feel right to someone, is my responsibility.
Well, you do have to unlearn because all of the stuff, most of the stuff we learned was wrong.
Yeah.
So we learned all this stuff, but when you're young, you don't know that there's a choice. You just think
do it.
Your parents' way is the way, and your community's way is the way, and your family's way is the way.
Yeah.
So we do have to unlearn it to go back to who we are and our authentic core place.
Ooh. I got the chills re-listening to this part of the interview, and it brought me back to when I was interviewing Sandi and how I got the chills when she talks about, when you're betraying yourself, your body is telling you. If you're in that integrity. And so this takeaway is all about what is your truth, because your body knows. And it really reminds me of, all these like sexual misconduct allegations that are out there. And it reminds me of a recent New York Times article that Salma Hayek wrote about making Frida and her experience with Harvey Weinstein and how she alleges that he sexually harassed and that he was a monster. Actually, it was called Harvey Weinstein Was My Monster. And she talks specifically about making her passion project, Frida Kahlo's movie, and how he said that he wanted her to act out this nude scene full frontal with Ashley Judd, and she did not want to do it. And her body, she literally started hacking, and her body knew it, that she was out of integrity. But he told her that if she didn't do it, that all the work that she's done would be all for naught and this movie would kind of fall to the wayside. So it made me think about how many people in my life and how many times in my life where I was asked to do something at work, in a previous job, that really was out of alignment with my truth. And how I felt like I had, I can feel it now. It's like getting the chills. It's like stomach aches, sweaty palms, being fidgety. So it's not only about trusting your truth, but being aware of the wisdom of your inner GPS and how your body feels. So if you're feeling sick or you get sick or you're feeling anxiety, it's time to really have a truth check. And now back to the conversation. So how do you go back to that authentic core place? Because you said that now you're really aware of your energy, your force field, or your energy, and you don't want to step too far out of that. And how is it your breath, and how does one become aware of that like right away? And I'll tell you my answer after I hear yours.
Okay. Well, first of all, I have to say that I'm human, and part of the human experience is that we are not perfection because there's no such thing. So it is a flow state, and some days and sometimes I'm more flowing and more open to the authenticity and being present, and sometimes I'm less open. So the main goal for me is to be the witness. And the way that I can most clearly witness is using the breath work. So when I breathe and I get in my body, I'm now experiencing my life from a body felt sense rather than a head story, because the head story can always trip you up. The body, just like you saw in a moment ago, doesn't lie. So the body knows when something feels real, when it doesn't feel real. So by breathing, by being in my body, I can go through life in a more present way generally.
I love that I love that you say that, we're not, I'm not perfect, you're not perfect. And, as a part of this podcast, what I say in episode 1, it's called Tuan Goes First. And, it's Gary. So it's like me talking about my intention for this. And I said at the end, you know what? I don't have it all figured out. And you know what? I still have some secrets. And I'm not telling you to just tell all your secrets, But what I'm saying is that you got to speak your truth, because when you're feeling like it's that time, and when the fear is outweighed by the freedom and the pain that your truth is causing you, then it's so freeing. It's amazing.
Beautiful.
I love the fact that, okay, so my answer is the body, and the body is the intuition. That's your gut is your GPS.
Yeah.
And so can you teach that? Can you teach that though?
Oh, yeah.
So okay, so let me ask you one question here then. Okay, if you can teach that, then, yesterday, for example, I wanted to make my CrossFit class. It was at 8:30, and I was afraid of being late, and I hate doing that because my dad was always late, and I didn't want to be like my dad. And then I was like swapping. I love design, so I was wanting to swap my settee with another friend who's a designer. And I was like, oh no, I can't take his legs off. And my partner was helping me. He's like, wait, I need to put on my shoes. And I was like, why do you need shoes? And I was just like, whoa, breath, and I found, and I'm getting better at it, but still sometimes I'm just like, rah. How do you become the witness when you're in it?
Well, the first thing is to say and to know, in that moment when you went, wow, in my words, I would say you were aware that you were fragmented. By fragmented, you separated from your core self. Because if you were in your core, you would have said, what's more important, going to CrossFit today or getting the settee? Well, I chose the settee. So I'm going to go and flow with that. And maybe I'll have to go to CrossFit tomorrow and I'll go for a walk today. Or maybe it'll all work out. But
which I did. That's not what I said. I said, it'll flow. And that's exactly what I said. And you know what? I ended up meeting, it was in Marin. I live in San Francisco, so it was just over the Golden Gate Bridge. And I ended up meeting with 2 other lovely people because my schedule opened up. Oh,
see? So the first thing is being aware when you fragment and being able to say to yourself, I just fragmented. I fragmented before and I've gotten out of it. And I'll fragment again and I'll get out of it. So I know I can get out of this. What do I need to do? And then it can be 5 breaths and you're back.
Yeah. That's exactly
what just acknowledging that nothing is happening to you, that you're not in control. None of us are in control in life, but we're definitely in charge. Yes. And that way you're in charge. By being in charge of your own well-being, by recognizing when you fragment and bringing yourself back. And there's other steps to use too, because sometimes fragmentation is much more serious than getting angry at your partner for a minute. Sometimes there's real crisis in life and we fragment because we're scared or we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm sure very much how you felt when you had so much loss in your life. And so there's different things that we need at that time because we can't just bounce back. That wouldn't be authentic.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that wouldn't be real either. Because sometimes when somebody says something to you and you either react because you don't know what to say yet, it's like, that's what's real at the moment.
Yeah.
And so, we're talking a lot about personal, being this in the personal sphere. And I know you do a lot of work, and I love that you do a lot of work growing other women in this space. And, being the executive for the VP of, apparel for Bugle Boy and, having co-founded, this agency licensing, you have a stacked resume, whatever you want to call it, right? What these role things, but in work, like how much of it is, you gotta kind of play the game, and when do you be real and when do you kind of choose your battles? Like, how does your GPS or your intuition work that way? Like, have you been in that situation where you're in a meeting that are executives or your people that are higher up or whatever, and you bite your tongue?
Well, I'm in a fortunate situation that if something doesn't feel right for me, I don't have to stay there for the financial reward.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people don't have that choice. And there were times in my life when I didn't have that choice and I made different decisions. But at this point in my life, and it might just be the fact of getting older, and there's certain stages in life where different things become more important. But at this stage in my life, there's no difference between how I do anything. The way that I'm a wife, a lover, a mother, a coworker, a teacher, I do it all the same. And in every situation, if I come up against, let's say in a work situation, if I come up against something that doesn't feel right to me, something that I can't go along with, I just have to say my truth and take a chance. Now, the thing is, a lot of times we feel something, and instead of being able to stay with it, we don't necessarily think we have the right to feel that way. So we jump into what we call character style. So character style might be an attitude of, you can't tell me what to do, you know, or I know better than you. So let's say I really feel my truth and it's authentic, but then I jump into character style and I tell you from a character style place how I feel. You're not going to hear me and I'm not going to get anywhere. If I can really stay in the true feeling and come from curiosity. And I ask a lot of questions rather than tell. So if something doesn't feel right, I can approach it by saying, you know, I'm in this place where this doesn't feel right. I'd like to know how it feels to you so I can understand better why you're saying what you say. And by having that kind of dialogue, I find that we can work through things, but there's never a choice of becoming a different person because I'm in a different situation.
Ooh, I like that. And, you know, it's funny that you had mentioned that too, because I often come from a place, because I also teach at a university here, blogging your passion and digital storytelling. And the students that have been the most tough for me have taught me the most, really, about how to deal with that and coming from a place of compassion. So when this kid's pulling out a knife and, you know, in his dorm and he's coming to class and like jittery and like whatnot, it's like I come from a place where I think, gosh, like what happened to you? Like, you know, and then then you hear about their families and why they do what they do. And, you know, when like the Sandy Hook thing happened or any tragedy happens, some people get annoyed at me, but I'm like, you know what? I'm also saying a prayer for the person that pulled the trigger and killed those people. Because, gosh, what were they told? What happened to them? And I'm not saying that what they did is okay. But when you come from a place where you have to learn, you learn that, you know, we're all humans, we're all people, we're just going through this experience together. Do you know Father Greg Boyle? This reminds me of the story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he does.
Yes,
you
I
know
do.
of him, I did a story because he has this. You know, he's a pastor at a church in East LA back in the day, and he realized that there's a lot of people that get out of jail that you know have nowhere to go. They're like ills of society. Nobody wants to hire you to work for them, and so he created Homeboy and Homegirl Industries, where he where it's silk screening shirts, and Homegirl Cafe, where men and women there come out of jail and start working and making a living. And, you know, I interviewed this guy, super big, buff, tatted up, tough guy. And I sat face to face to him and, you know, we're talking, asked him the regular questions of who, what, where, when, why, whatever. And how this has helped you. And then I said, you know, I looked him dead in the eye and I said, what happened? What happened? I know that we're all born here and, you know, with goodness in our hearts, but something happened. What happened? Why did you rob those people and attack them? And he reverted back to his 7-year-old boy self. And he was like, I was 7. I'm getting the chills now. He's like, I'm 7. And my mom, I was a latchkey kid and my mom was never there for me. And she went to work and she came home and she saw that I was playing with matches. And so she took my hands and she turned on the burners on the stove and put my hands on the stove.
Oh my!
And it burned my hands. And he ran into the bathroom and slammed the door and locked himself and he put his hands in the toilet.
and just fell asleep with his hands in the toilet. And so with, this conversation that we're having with work, personally, professionally, and spiritually, I think that, we're at different times where you can feel confident enough to, and it comes with age and wisdom for sure, and experiences. But there is a time when you could say, okay, there's a place in my life where I was like, I'm done with working for bosses who are mean. And I'm done with, for me, it was a TV station here in San Francisco that I worked at that I didn't, the bosses were just mean spirited and it was very low morale. And I was just using my power of connecting with people and storytelling, bringing junk to people, death and destruction into their, living rooms through the airwaves. And I was done. And I think that there comes a time when there was times when I would be quiet. And then towards the end, when I couldn't stand it anymore, right. I was just like, no, this isn't right. And I would speak up for myself. And I said, I know I have the power to make a living. And this is a down economy. People thought I was crazy because this is market number 6. I was like, market number 6 TV station, only 140 jobs at the 4 TV stations on air. And here I am wanting to leave. And I told a friend that, I'm going to quit my job when we get back from Peru in a few weeks and I'll be done because I can't do this anymore. And I don't know where I'm going to go or what I'm going to do. And I definitely don't have a huge savings because it's expensive to live here in the city. And guess what happened? God listened. The next day I walk in and guess what happens? Laid off, a severance check. I was so excited. And so the guy that was cutting the check, the finance guy, he goes, Tuan, we've always been cool, right? I'm like, yeah, why? And he was like, you're the only person that has been this excited about being laid off. And if you come in and bomb the building, let me know because I'm not going to show up. He was joking. But, I think when you're able to tell your truth, like personally, professionally, and then spiritually, like it just feels so good. And then after, I understand that people have to pay their bills and people have to eat and whatnot, but there'll come a time when you just feel like it's right. And that opportunity opens up and there's that awakening that you're okay with, having. I did not expect to have this deep of a conversation with you. Oh my gosh, this is I feel like a little kid in a candy store. Thank you for this experience. Oh my gosh. I would love to know a little bit more about this integrated body therapy. Could you tell for people that don't even know what it's about?
There is a very poor website that's being fixed right now. Okay. But integrated body psychotherapy, there's a school in Venice, California. There's actually a couple of therapists that practice IBP in the Marin area. Okay. I've discovered for some people that have inquired. But there's a school in Venice, California. It's a 2 or 3 year course, and it's 1 weekend a month, 7 weekends a year. Okay. And it's a lot of people take it for personal growth, and then therapists take it to learn how to use this program in their work. And as I say, I went through the program. Barnett went through the program, and he's graduating this May. Ooh, yay! Well, he likes it so much that he's repeating the whole course, and he's going to do it in Italy, and he's going to start again in May in Italy and do the whole thing again. He's done, we've both all done a lot of work, and I know it's developmental. There's certain things that work at certain times, but both of us feel that it's the most transformational work we've ever done. I would love to share that on my website too when I upload the podcast. So okay, great. Share with me. And so are you leading this? No. In Italy, there's 3 teachers in Italy. There's a therapist who's a teacher. I'm not a therapist. And then another person and myself who are her backup team. And then in LA, we have therapists also that teach the course. And again, I'm not a therapist. I'm a graduate of the Institute. So I'm the backup in LA as well. Got it. Because I saw that on your website, it says that you teach at the Institute in LA and Italy. So I just... Yeah. And then I do personal coaching using the IBP methods within my coaching work as well. Ooh, awesome. And it's it's womensnetwork.net? You know what? It's word of mouth. Okay. Got it. So okay. I managed to stay as busy as I can be with the other things that I do just from referrals. So I don't really have a place to sign up. But,
okay, but if people are listening and they're like, oh, I want to talk to her, work with her, they can contact you through the itswomensnetwork.net, or what do you prefer?
They can just email me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
My email address.
Okay, great. Awesome. Oh my gosh. This is, I mean, I feel like it was a therapy session for me. And I think it's going to be like a lot for other people. And people think therapy is bad, but no, like the truth is it helps,
Oh my goodness. Self-knowledge is the most exciting thing.
Yeah, I love it. And I love what you said earlier. You had mentioned, and this is the truth about relationships. And I'm talking about the sexual, the partner, the lover. Is that really, it sounds so cliche, but until you really love yourself and you're able to fully give yourself, you don't really experience the expanse of love and the full potential of it. And gosh, this love to me has been a very interesting kind of theme in the last few months with a lot of friends that are, the thing is, my friends are like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're doing this Truth Dare podcast, because I felt like I can only call you because you won't judge me. And they tell me they're leaving their husbands, several friends that I know, or that they're not being adored or seen or felt and heard. And that's really the core of what we all want, right? From anybody. So you and Barnett have been married for, is it
37, I think?
Almost 40 years.
We lose track.
Yeah, because when I saw it, I don't want to be, I feel like I can be truthful and tell you this, because when I read it, I was like, wow, almost as long as I've been alive.
I'm an old soul. Right.
They're old. Yeah, I'm an old soul. No, I'm 39. I definitely am an old soul, because I was, raised by my grandmothers. And I feel like children and elders I adore because they're closest to spirit world. They're entered or they're about to leave. And my grandmother, it was a huge kind of spiritual teacher for me. She was Buddhist. But so you and Barnett met at a party in the Hollywood Hills when he had just moved from New York to LA, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And so when you first met him, was there like, people say the sparks everywhere? Were you just kind of like, hey?
No, when I first met him, I loved what he was wearing.
Oh.
He looked so cool.
Oh.
He was wearing...
What was he wearing?
He was wearing and people didn't dress this way then. So he was wearing a Calvin Klein, because I was in the clothing business, so I knew these things. He was wearing a Calvin Klein cream linen suit with a camel pinstripe.
Ooh.
He was wearing a white t-shirt underneath it. And in those days, people didn't really wear t-shirts under suits. And he was wearing sneakers.
Ooh.
And in those days, people didn't wear sneakers with suits. Now they do, but they didn't then. And I just looked at him. I went, oh my God, he looks so cool. And then the second thing was, we were in a group of people and he was hysterically funny. He is so funny, Barnett. He used to be much funnier, actually, because he was much more of a performer. He's much more authentic now, so he's not quite as funny. But before, in those days, he was kind of on, and he was hysterical. And so he was very funny, and we were standing with a group of people, and he said, oh, we're all getting along so great, and I just moved here. We should exchange numbers. So then he went into his lapel, and he pulled out a brown paper bag, and I thought, what's he doing with the brown paper bag? It was empty, and he tore it in little pieces, and everybody exchanged their phone numbers. And then about 3 days later, my phone rang, and this was before voicemail and before answering services and all that. Well, I guess there were probably human answering services, but I didn't have one. And I pick up the phone, and he said, and he's yelling at me, and he said, where have you been? And I went, what do you mean, where have I been? Who is this? And he said, it's Barnett. I met you at the party the other night, and every woman I meet in LA gives me their home number, their work number, and their mother in New York who will know where they are if they're not home. You gave me this number and you never answer. And I said, well, stop yelling at me and come for dinner tomorrow night. And he said, okay. And I don't know why I said that, because I don't cook. And
yeah, I saw in one of the interviews, you were like, yeah, I really don't cook.
That's not my thing. Although I'm getting better now because I'm healthier. But, so he came to dinner actually and never left. Never, like literally never left.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I actually left. I had to go to New York for work on the following Monday, and he was writing a script at the time on a typewriter, and typewriters were noisy. And he was staying with his sister, who was about to have a baby any minute, and he types at night, and his typing was keeping his sister up. So I said, well, I'm going to New York tomorrow. If you want to stay here, you won't be bothering your sister. And that was not like me at all. This whole thing was not like me. And so I left, and he stayed, and I was in a hotel in New York, and he was in my bed, and we were on the phone every night for 4 hours, and I was falling in love with him over the phone. And then
when he was in your bed.
Yes. And then I came back, and he said, well, I found an apartment. And I said, oh, why? And he said, well, what do you mean why? And I said, oh, you don't have to leave. And he goes, what do you mean I don't have to leave? And I said, well, I love you. And he said, what? I don't love you. I don't love you. Don't say that. I don't love you.
Yeah, guys usually are very hesitant in saying that.
Well, and he also told me after that he had a sense that this was something really good, and he didn't want to lead me on or be like the sort of a-hole that he had been in the past in relationships. So he wanted to be truthful, and he didn't know if he loved me. So I said, well, I think you do, but you don't know yet. Why don't you stay a month or two? And if you decide you don't love me, then look for an apartment. And so about 2 months later, he said, you're right. I love you. I would like to get married this summer. And I went, what? Who said anything about getting married? I'm not getting married.
How long since you guys met?
Like 3 months, maybe.
Okay.
He said, get married by the summer. And I said, no, I don't want to get married. And he said, well, I want to be married, and I'm a great guy, and I'd like to be married to you. But if you don't want to get married, I'm going to go find somebody who does want to get married.
And did you get this right away?
Well, then I called my girlfriend, and I go, oh, what do I do? She wants to get married. And she said, oh, it's just like swimming. Hold your nose and jump in.
I love that.
And I came out of the bathroom where I had taken my phone on the long cord to whisper to her. And I go, okay, I'll marry you. And he said, could you be more excited about it? But then once we got married, he said something about me not wanting to get married. And I said, what? What are you talking about? I wanted to get married. He goes, Sandi, you did not want to get married. But what I realized is I had completely forgotten that I didn't want to get married, because it was just change that I was afraid of, but not marriage. And once I was married to him, I thought, of course, I always wanted to be married to you. So that was 37 years ago.
Wow. So were you scared?
When I got married,
were you like, oh shit, what did I do?
No, once I got married, I wasn't. Once I actually made the decision, I think I was okay. And once I married him, I was completely okay, because I had already made the shift. But, at that time I was a little bit of a control freak, and I didn't like change. I like things on my terms.
Yeah. Right. I mean, same with me. I was just like, who am I going to ever be with? Cause I'm like, I'm a big social butterfly, and like have events and charities, and like, I like to go to the plays, and like, have dinner parties, and like, I'm always out and about. And it's just like, will I ever find someone that really kind of holds my attention for that long? And I found someone, and it happened to be a guy, in 10 years this October. So it's, God, it's crazy. Fantastic. Right? So what's the secret to being married for, gosh, almost 4 decades?
Decades.
Don't mean that. You don't sound old. I'm not trying to make you sound old.
No. It's okay. I own my eldership with pride.
And you're
elderhood.
So classy, by the way. I mean, I saw a photo of you, and I'm just like, oh. Like the first thing I noticed about you and Barnett, honestly, was your energy, and then like your style. I really appreciate a sense of style, and there's photos of you, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like your hair was cut sort of like a bob, but it was frayed at the bottom, and I was like, oh my God, gorgeous. Anyway, your energy, yeah. So I am also an athlete, so I love design. I just switched up my apartment yesterday, but I redesign my place honestly like every 6 months. When I saw that you're in apparel, it's so interesting, because I want to also one day design clothes. Like I have ideas for like ball gowns and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just
you'll have to come here and visit us one day. This place is beautiful.
Absolutely, yes.
But I would say that the secret there's no secret. But first of all, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of being present. I remember about 10 years into it, we were having a big fight, and I was more like, I'm out of here, I don't need you kind of thing. And Barnett said, come here and sit down. We have to work this out. And I said, why? Like, I'm over you. And he said, no, we have to work this out, because I'm not going to find myself having the same conversation with a different woman 10 years from now. And that's basically what it is. It goes back to that one person theme that we were talking about at the beginning. If two people can own their one person theme, then they're not always looking outside for somebody else to be the cause of why they're not happy or to make them happy. I'm responsible for my own happiness. He's responsible for his own happiness. And of course, we are as caring and sharing as we can be, and loving. But, we were also really fortunate that we both became very excited about personal growth together. I have a lot of friends where one of the people in the marriage or the relationship is interested in personal growth and the other one isn't. And that's difficult, but it both became our biggest passion. So, we went all over the country. We were workshop junkies and channel junkies and everything you could think of. And we both loved it. And we applied everything that we were learning to ourselves and then to our relationship. But it's a lot of communication, a lot of talking when you feel like you just want to go in the room and close the door. A lot of going to your journal and dealing with the angry feelings so that you don't have to dump them on the other person before you speak. Being able to contain your discomfort in a situation and deal with it on your own and then come to your partner from a core place rather than a blame place. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of conscious awareness. And that's why it's such a beautiful backdrop for self-growth, because when you live by yourself and you're going through your day and you're decorating your house, and you're like, nobody's calling you on anything. Your cat will jump on your lap and love you no matter what. But, I just love it. And I must say that relationship is one of the things that Barnett is best at in his life. He's really an amazing, amazing husband and father. He's so trustworthy and dedicated and loving and caring and committed. And you really, I think my daughter and myself really feel his commitment to loving us, and that creates a very safe space. He really provides a lot of safety and security from his heart space.
Is that what you love most about him? If you could just choose one thing, because there's so many things. I mean, I just talk to him, and I love him as another soul to soul person. Like his creativity, the way he pays attention and asks questions and frames things. So, what is it? If you could choose one thing that you love.
Oh, one thing is hard because he's sort of terrific.
Yeah,
can I say a couple of things? Not very many, but a couple of things. And then I'll try to narrow it down. Maybe if it's like the passion test. I'll lay out all my passions. So, I really love his mind and how intelligent he is and how curious he is, because I'm sort of a big picture person and he's much more detailed. So I can say to him, will you read this book and tell me about it? And he literally tells me bedtime stories. He'll read a book and tell me about what the idea is behind the book, because I don't always have the patience to read the book. So I love that he's so curious.
I read a lot of self-help books, and I talk to a lot of people about spirituality and life lessons, and I'm always trying to think about, gosh, when I have challenges, what is this trying to teach me? And God knows that I've had so many challenges. But this one was a new aha for me. And Sandi talks here about being in a relationship with Barnett for about 37-ish years. Wow, that's almost 4 decades of your life. Talk about life lessons that you'll learn and mistakes that you'll learn from, right? And what struck me was she says, you have to stay curious. Whoa. And this made me think, you know what? I have to always stay curious. Am I staying curious personally, professionally, and spiritually in life? And if not, think about it. Things start to crumble. If you're not curious about your partner, guess what? The relationship will fizzle. If you're not paying attention or curious about what your audience thinks or how they react to your podcast show, then you're not really paying attention and you're not curious, and that the listeners will go away. So my question to you is, what are you curious about? And whatever you're doing that excites you now, are you still curious? If not, it's over. And now back to the conversation.
I love his sense of humor. But I guess I would have to say that he does create such a safe, a place of safety and security. And I know without a doubt how much he loves me. I never, ever, ever question that how much he loves me. I know sometimes he gets really pissed off at me,
Yeah.
but I know that his love is unwavering and he's 100% committed to the relationship.
Huh.
And that feels really good.
You know, I was going to ask you this. I was just right now, this question came to me. I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday, and she said that she was going to leave her husband and take her 2 kids with her because she wasn't feeling adored. And I feel a sense that's, a sense of, I'm creative and I'm quirky and strange and I like brush my teeth and I'm dancing, and I'm just like, I just exactly what you said is the same thing with my partner. I know he's trustworthy. He's there for me. He shows up when my speaking engagements, whenever I have them, even if he's sick. I mean, but then it's like, I'm like, do you adore me?
You know what? I don't know. I'm not sure about that word. I mean,
it may not be the word, but it's just like, do you fully appreciate all my quirks and craziness and, because there's different love languages, right?
Yeah.
So that maybe the adored is not the word, because
I would say accept it, like totally sees me and accepts me. And appreciate.
Yeah.
Adored for me, and it could just be semantics. I know women have said that, I want to be adored, but that kind of feels to me, where it lands to me is dramatic and not with a lot of substance.
Yeah. You know what? So it is the wrong word, because I totally got what my friend said.
Yeah.
But it's not, I know adored is the wrong word. It's what you said is, are you fully seen for who you are?
Yeah. And held. It's like, is there a
space there you go. There it is.
Held in this love place.
Absolutely.
Where, no matter what, they're not going to drop their arms and drop you. They're going to always, you're held in a place of love with the best intention. Also knowing that really, the bond can't be broken if you can remember, somebody can break the bond if they cheat. Of course. Then the bond is broken, and it's very hard to put it together, because even once you glue it, there's always that line where the glue was.
Well, I quote unquote married, officiated my friend's wedding, and I said, hey, take this from a single guy that's not married, but you can love each other still and still be divorced, and broken up, and still hold that love in your heart for them. But really, I think it's having the respect for each other so that you don't harbor any ill feelings towards them and it builds up. That's really important. I think respect comes before love. Yeah,
respect and good intention. If your intention is really, if someone has an intention to hurt you, and sometimes when you fight, one person does have an intention to hurt the other person. I've fought with Barnett, and I really wanted to hurt him because I felt like he hurt me, and I said mean things. And in that moment, my intention was to hurt him. But overall, you can move through those places. If overall your bottom line really intention is to be kind and loving, but sometimes you fall off the wagon because
we're human. We're human.
Then that's okay. But you have to feel in the other person. You have to trust that they have your good intention first and foremost.
Absolutely. And in your relationship too, and as the 10-year, they say the 7-year itch, or for me, I feel like it's every few years, and for a lot of people. But how do you grow in synchronicity? Because career-wise and all that, is that even real?
You don't. No, I don't think you do. I always feel like sometimes Barnett's 3 steps ahead of me and I catch up, or I'm 3 steps ahead of him and he catches up. Not so much. Our careers have never really gelled. They've been very different, especially since he's been a creative person, and that's feast or famine. And I was always more a corporate person, which is consistent. So we didn't gel so much in that area. And that was challenging at times for both of us because of, societal roles of men and women. And sometimes they were reversed in our family. But as far as human potential growth and growing as a human being, sometimes he will take a leap forward and it's like, oh my God, like he's really in this other place and I'm not there. I'm not there. And then I take a leap forward and he follows. And I don't think it happens in synchronicity all the time.
Yeah.
And you have to know when it happens that everybody's in their own timing and their own flow, and you go with it.
Yeah, and this is the way I tell people too. It's like nobody's going to ever be able to check off. So say you create a checklist of your future mate, right? Mm-hmm. And there are things that are important. For some people, it's kids. For some people, it's finances. It's loyalty. It's style. It's whatever, right? But do they check off the things that are most important? And if you're able to find a partner that checks off most of those most important, the most important things, and there's some things where you're just like, well, you know, maybe it isn't important for me, for example. I don't really care to have kids. I love kids, but I don't see myself having kids. That's totally fine. But for some people, that could be the make or break.
Yeah, and you have to know that because if it's very important and you say, okay, I can live with it, I won't have kids. You know, after the honeymoon and the excitement and the hot sex ends, you're going to start thinking that you want kids again.
Yeah, right. Because the funny thing is that I saw this quote, and I'm going to butcher it up, but the essence of it really is, it's like being in a relationship is having fights, is trying to figure it out, is eating, you know, like a cold dinner at the end of the day because it was stressful. It is sometimes falling asleep by yourself. But it is lovely knowing that that person has your back type of thing, you know, and it is messy. Yeah. There is no perfect, no matter who you are, you know, and once we need to just drop that and unlearn that it's like, oh, Prince Charming and Princess blah, 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 you know,
the messier it is, the more exciting it is because it means both people are taking chances.
Mm. Yeah.
You know, if nobody's stepping off the dance floor every so often to say, maybe we need a new dance, then that old dance can get really boring.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It means being brave.
Yeah, absolutely. And having the courage. Okay, so I'm gonna have. I'd love to wrap up with 10 questions. And just right off the tip of your tongue, just answer with whatever, without thinking too much, okay? And feeling it. A word that you would describe Barnett as?
Enchanting.
I love that. How has your first impression changed of him?
Some has changed dramatically. I had no sense of who he was. And some of it is exactly the same.
What do you adore most about him?
That he really is funny when he dances and he knows he's funny and he can laugh at himself.
So he's a bad dancer or a good dancer?
Bad.
Annoying habit?
Oh gosh. The first thing that came to my, annoying habit. Sometimes when he eats soft foods, his teeth still sound like they're chewing. And I don't get how you could chew applesauce and it drives me crazy.
His spirit animal.
I got a lion and a deer all together.
Oh, a lion and a deer. Okay. He said eagle.
But I think that he's actually an eagle. Yeah, I think he is an eagle.
Okay.
An eagle.
What's he most scared of?
His power.
Biggest accomplishment?
Loving.
One thing you change?
Eating healthier.
One quirk that you love most about him?
He sings. He wakes up in the morning humming.
Ooh. You know,
he always sings.
You know, there's a book on happiness that I was reading that said that one thing you should do and practice in the morning is sing.
Oh, he wakes up humming. Because he walks around the house humming.
When you sing in the morning, it changes your chemistry.
Oh, well then, that's good. I should start singing.
And complete the sentence. Living with Barnett is like...
Oh, the magical, like what's at Disneyland, like the magical mystery ride.
I love that you brought mystery because I was introduced to Barnett by Suzanne Lettrick, and they took a coaching class together in LA. Do you know Suzanne?
No, I don't.
Okay. So she's lovely and magical as well. And you're going to meet her one day because we plan to go to LA together. She's just my ass seat, lovable, spiritual friend. And we're just saying that he's so deep and complex, but simple and wise. And you do feel kind of like, it's interesting that you said held, because that's how you feel like around him when he talks. And that there's a mystery. And there's also that darkness. It's like a shadow side, which to me, I don't think it's a bad thing because we all have our shadow sides. But gosh, Sandi, it was such a delight chatting with you.
Thank you. So fun. I really hope we get a chance to meet in person.
I know we will. And I liken this too. I was just thinking, so something that people don't know about me is that when I go to weddings, I tear it up on the dance floor. I do old 80s like sprinkler moves, and I do this thing called wheelbarrow where somebody holds my legs and I do like crazy things and push-ups and whatever. And then you know what happens though? I look like, people are like, oh, you're a good dancer. I honestly don't think I am, and they're like, oh, you have good rhythm, but I don't care. I'm just like, I'm just in the moment. It's like Florence and the Machine when she's up there dancing. I went to her concert and she's just in it. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm feeling you too, and other people have that permission to come up and dance. And so you have the fathers and uncles and aunties and grandfathers, and everybody has a weird uncle, that they'll come up and they'll dance with me. And sometimes even risque. But I felt like we went there today, and that it was just so synchronicity.
Great.
So thank you.
Lots of fun.
Yes, thank you, Sandi. I really will treasure this conversation forever.
Well, let's have more.
Yeah, for sure.
So here's the wrap up. First and foremost, what is your theme, especially when you're at your lowest point or when you're abandoning yourself? And how does that play out and make you feel? And how do you say goodbye to that theme? Because you know what? Most of the time, I would say most of the time or all of the time, it's not your truth. And how do you go back to your truth? Listen to your body. When you're starting to get stomach aches or you're starting to panic, guess what? Something isn't right, whether it's personal, professional, or spiritual. And of course, stay curious. Stay curious with your partner. Stay curious with your projects. Stay curious with your spiritual life. Because if you're not curious, it's the end. And that, my friends, is the truth. So trust your truth. I dare you. This episode is brought to you in part by Mobility WOD, that's WOD, known for Workout of the Day. If you're struggling to get into good positions in your training and workouts, and your movement is causing you undue pain and grief, check out Mobility WOD. They believe that every human being should be able to perform basic maintenance on themselves. Mobility WOD is offering Truth Tribers a special 20% off an annual membership with the code TruthDare, of course. Go to mobilitywod.com, that's WOD, to start your membership. Mobility WOD, full potential, full power. For those of you guys who know me, know that I love me some flip-flops. And we're sponsored in part by one of my favorite flip-flops, Malaco. They leave positive messages in the sand. And for each pair you buy means a child in poverty gets a pair of shoes. Malaco, good for your soul and your soul. That's www.moeloco.com. And one truth that connects us all is that we'll all be caregivers or cared for one day. The Wheel Life mobile app makes it easy to coordinate care for your family and friends, especially during health challenges and aging. That's www.theweallife.com.
You've been listening to Truth Dare with your host, Tuan Lam. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. And check out our website at truthdaretalk.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Truth Dare Talk. You can join our conversation anonymously and tell us your truth. Click on the SpeakPipe link on our website at truthdaretalk.com and use your mobile phone to speak your truth. Your truth is welcome here.